This PFC rounds, that is required in large numbers. That's what you're saying, sir. Sir, you have the Akash system. You have in the army. You have the Akash. You have the MR-SAM. You have the Iglas. You have the L-70s. You have the Zu-23s. You have seen. You are the DG-AD, sir. So, which one of them is the hero of this conflict, sir?
I think
biggest hero. Every system is a hero, but for you, which one is the biggest hero?
No. Yeah, this is like pick your favorite child kind of question.
Yeah, but it's like this, that it is undisputable that a gun system has been extremely effective, an air defense gun system, and I think that we in the army have to thank my predecessors and the army, that we, unlike other countries which started moving away from guns into the realm of missiles, the Indian army held on to its guns. And even our successor gun, which is to come up for trials in July, we realized over a period of time that the gun is an irreplaceable form of air defense. And I think whether it's the L-70 or the Zu or the Shilka, or even a LMG or an MMG in ACAC role which the infantry has, is going to make a huge difference as far as drone destruction goes. So the gun is the undisputable, the air defense gun.
So these guns must have destroyed at least around 60% of the drones that Pakistan sent, sir?
Yeah, I would say that quantity would be a reasonable assumption, yes.
And what would be the total number of drones, large size, small size, medium size, that they would have sent in in these 4 days, sir?
You see, so it is like this, that a drone, to count numbers is a perception of the person who's given it. So maybe I would say anything between maybe 800 to 1,000 across the whole western border, yes.
In 4 days?
In 4 days, yeah, roughly.
And majority of them got destroyed?
Yeah, a large number. And one thing for sure is all the UCAV drones, which actually carried a payload, although their intent was to harm civil population and they were directed towards population centers, we ensured that they did not cause any damage. And I think the proof of the pudding is actually in what we actually saw, that there were no civilian casualties. But this is something that we've got to be very, very careful of in the years ahead, because if this is form of conflict, then our civil population areas are as important, if not more, than anybody else at the border.
So, sir, right now we have this VAVP concept of deployment. So what you're saying...
Explain. Don't use so much of terminology that people won't understand.
Ma'am, we have already explained that vital areas and points where like very important installations and offices or temples, all those things. So you think, sir, now in near future or from now on, we must start preparing for having air defense networks for say not just like suppose if we take the case of Delhi, so we should not have just air defense network for the South Block and adjoining areas, the VVIP areas, but also for population centers like say a Noida or a Gurgaon or an RK Puram or other localities.
No, it is like this, that as I told you initially, that for a drone to come so far in, it has to pass through.
No, but if we say, suppose move this example
to something closer to the border.
Closer to the border,
absolutely.
Say Amritsar, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is like this, that the US has a very interesting system called the CURAM. It is counter to rockets, artillery and mortars. So they have a gun which fires at about 4,500 rounds per minute. And they are largely at population centers. Okay. So they are meant to protect population centers. The Iron Dome is another concept which you spoke of. Is again, since Israel of course is small, but the Iron Dome is also a form of a population center protection.
Because all our cantonments now are around population centers. Pehle hota tha that it was a little further away, but our cities have grown and now cantonments have become right in the middle of the city. So they have become also vulnerable, right? The civilian population is all around the cantonment area. So when you say Badami Bagh or something like that, it's or Ambala or whatever, the flyover goes over Ambala Cant. So all of them have become, or Chandi Mandir or any of these
Absolutely,
places,
ma'am,
they become vulnerable too, right? So one thing I want to talk about is the narrative war also, because now we, several days after the conflict, after the 4-day conflict, one can detect a change in what the narrative is about internationally, is about what happened. Because as we are putting out more images of the destruction that was caused by our forces in Pakistan, now people are getting to know that what Pakistan had done initially was propaganda, not backed with facts. One quote which I have, which you can expand on, which says that the 4-day conflict has many defense experts say that India has entered the elite club of nations with fully integrated automated air defense command and control capability. Would you agree with this, or do you think that there are more lessons that one can learn after this 4-day conflict?
No, I think that I think there's tremendous work in progress that is required. While we have been successful in taking on this current challenge, but we've got to be able to detect drones in far greater numbers. We've got to have a detection system in place.
Shield, detect, take down.
Yeah. So absolutely right. So you got to have a detection system. You got to have what do you call it? After detection, you must be able to identify that it is an enemy drone, and then you must be able to proliferate this information to destroy it as much fast as possible. I think that is something that we've got to work on, so that you can make sure that you bring them down in as many numbers that come, and a very, very minuscule number, if any, get across. If you've got couple of layers.
Okay.
So I think that's very important, that we don't rest on what we've achieved. We've got to take it ahead. We've got to have the Akash Tir play out. Akash Tir is largely has not been configured in the drone domain, the drone warfare domain. So you've got to look at how does drones management systems work. So that the Akash Tir is largely for aircrafts, helicopters, and for UAVs of bigger types like the Searcher and the Heron and the TB2 and all that. But when you talk about smaller drones, the system has just been put through its first test. But we got to strengthen it. We got to have greater amount of sensors involved in it. We got to have types of sensors involved in it, and then be able to disseminate this information as quickly as possible, so that our interdiction and destruction of this threat is as far forward as possible.
Is the adversary doing the same? Would be.
I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure. After all, if you see today between Russia and Ukraine, this catch-up game is on a daily basis. So you find one day the Russians claim a huge success with their drone capability, then the Ukraine comes in with some newer capability. So you just see in the matter of the last 8 months how conflict has changed. You had drones which were on simple industrial, scientific and medical frequencies. The moment that was being taken down by jammers, then you had autonomous drones which would know where to fly. Then you had tethered drones which would have a cable taking them up. Then you had 3D printed drones which had the terrain which was mapped, which would fly as per that. So you just see how the phenomenal evolution of drones has taken place. And in the counter...
Within a year or two, that's it.
Absolutely.
Usually it takes weapon systems, it takes a time to figure out what is it that can go wrong, what can be done, what modifications need to be done. But this is something that even the private sector has woken up to the challenge, right?
And you see how Starlink has changed the whole Ukrainian battle. So I think that's it's very important that while this development takes place, how does the counter to this play out? It has to also move as quickly as possible. And I think that we've got to be a little flexible in procuring the counters, because otherwise you'll be a little behind of the curve.
Okay. One controversy which happened over the weekend, now that I have you, I'll give it back to you soon. Now that I have you here, I need to know about this because this broke out yesterday. One is about the mission statement. What were we intending to do? What targets did we want? And then this happened, sir, which was Rahul Gandhi, leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, tweeted, informing Pakistan at the start of our attack was a crime. EM, which is External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, he's publicly admitted, he said, that the government of India did it. who authorized it. Now, he put this tweet out, which was a reaction to Mr. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, in case for foreign audiences who don't,
At
who
the
haven't
start of the operation, we had sent a message to Pakistan saying we are striking at terrorist infrastructure. We are not striking at the military. So the military has an option of standing out and not interfering in this process. They chose not to take that good advice.
Now, here what has happened is what the External Affairs Minister was saying at the start of the operation did not mean that before the operation. This was after we hit the first targets, which was the terrorist camp, and then they were informed. Now, obviously, Mr. Gandhi is interpreting at the start of the campaign is what he meant was that at Operation Sindoor before it was launched, right? And then, the government put out the DGMO who had in his
being
briefing.
well aware and familiar with the congenital and impulsive nature of our adversary, and even though we did attempt to reach out and communicate our compulsions to strike at the heart of terror to my counterpart in the immediate wake of Operation Sindoor, the request was brusquely turned down, with an intimation that a severe response was inevitable and in the offing. We were, of course, prepared. Operations on the 7th and the 8th, Air Marshal Bharti spoken about.
So basically, we were all at these briefings and press conferences. Ajit was there too. So what had happened was that the DGMO briefing, the other briefings, everybody told us the sequence, which is that the strikes happened on the terror targets. Subsequently, the Indian defense told their DGMO that this is what we're doing. DGMO did not respond. Said, do you want to talk? DGMO did not respond and said instead that we'll be striking back. They struck back. After which we struck the second day, which was we took out their air bases and the air defense, whatever they had, all the targets that were there. This was the sequence. But somewhere the confusion occurs is when, at what point. Now, what is the SOP out here? Does the Indian defense mechanism ever tell the adversary, tell the enemy that this is what we're going to strike? Does that happen?
No, I think that for any conflict to be successful, surprise is the greatest element. And the very fact that, we got 100 terrorists, if not more, in their respective places where the camps were, I mean, that itself gives you an answer. If this was so clearly enunciated before that I'm coming and I'm going to target your terrorist camps, then they would have been empty.
Like it had happened, what they claim happened in Balakot.
So the very fact that we got big names, I mean, the very fact that we got big names in the terrorist, Pak terrorist hierarchy only tells you that the matter of surprise was at its highest. And I think that's the way I would, that's the takeaway, that, if there was any pre-information and also telling somebody that you're coming for the terrorist camps, then they would have been empty.
Let's come to the objectives. What was the mission? What were you told has to be done?
Well, as an DGAD, I was told to provide air defense. But if you look at it in the broader context, I was told to protect our airspace. But I'm sure the forces that were told to respond proportionately in as minimum collateral damage being provided, no harm to civil population or religious places, so that what caused us pain, what caused 26 families pain, if not more, directly or indirectly, that is actually avenged.
Pakistan has said that they used their Chinese fighter jets. They have said it openly. China is, of course, boasting about it. And, till recently, international media reports were always that Chinese technology is reverse technology. Their aircraft was a butt of all jokes, whether in America or Europe, from the defense manufacturers to the media reports and all. But now they have managed to come out in this smiling in the narrative, saying that our J10s were fabulous. What do you have to say to that?
I think that if you see the Chengdu aerospace company stock value, the way it has gone down, I think that would give you an answer.
Okay, and Dassault went up despite the fact
And
that
sir, like if they are saying, and they were on the in the initial period, they were even flying the JF-17s, J-10s, and the Chinese aircraft. Were we able to, as air defense, were we able to hit any of them, sir? The aircraft,
So
bigger size or smaller size?
it is like this, that I'm sure Pakistan as a nation is well aware of the capability our air defense has. It is well aware of the capability of our Indian Air Force. It is well aware of our capability of our EW systems. And hence, flying in depth was not going to give them any major benefit. So, in my perception, that they really didn't fly too much. The very fact that they were using civilian aircraft to fly international and national carriers only tells you that they were trying to ensure that, knowing our nation doesn't harm anybody from a civilian in any form, they knew we wouldn't try and shoot down their aircrafts, even if they were behind the Pakistan international carriers or the national carrier of Pakistan. In spite of conflict, the first thing that you do in conflict is to make sure that your airspace is closed for national and international flights. But they never let that happen. They let these flights fly. And I think that's a very major lesson that we've got to take away. That imagine what would have happened to their people. I think the restraint showed by the Indian armed forces and the Air Force, we had, if we wanted to be as aggressive as we could be, and we brought down a Pakistan international carrier, a national aircraft with civilians on board, I mean, that would have been criminal.